Well, the guys are back in today. We certainly have to turn our attention to this game on Wednesday with a little bit more focus. But with 2 games at home in this coming week, there's an awful lot to be achieved. So we're looking forward to it. The guys are upbeat, and we're ready for the challenge that will be Toronto on Wednesday.
Great. We'll start in the room. Claudio?
Gary, of course, you go a game at a time, for sure, but how crucial it is for the team, these 3 games at home, and are they definite in any shape or form?
Are they what, sorry?
Definite in terms of what the team can accomplish in the season?
Yeah, I said it before the Montreal game. All of the home games are vitally important to us now and to every team. What we have seen over the last couple of games are some more natural trends that the group's starting to show. The Montreal game, I think we saw a really good balance of competitiveness in the first half, a couple of goals, certainly a goal threat throughout the game, limiting Montreal to very, very little. This weekend, we limited Charlotte to very, very little. Unfortunately, the balance wasn't quite there, and I think the front 2 got a little bit isolated. Chances were very, very few and far between for ourselves. But in all fairness, given what Charlotte have been able to achieve at home on a very difficult surface, I thought the game plan and the way the guys went about the business was very, very good. So I think we're in a much better place. We saw some guys coming back. Shaq got 25 minutes at the weekend. Boyd, just over an hour. Walker, because of the surface, a little bit more limited, but given 3 games in a week, there was a slightly different view to the way that we worked with Walker at the weekend. So long and short of it is, I think the team's rounding into some better form, and I'd like to think that we'll see that again on Wednesday.
But Gary, is it harder to keep the guys focused and maybe give them instruction when it's more stop in terms of form, and you're winning, you're losing? When you're kind of maintaining an unbeaten lead an unbeaten streak, for example, is it easier to give those instructions out, and does it come through here?
Yeah, of course. I think when you're winning, everything becomes a little bit easier. We're in a run that the club's not seen before, and I think we're all viewing it. I know I certainly am, and I've tried to get the message across to the guys. In any group, if you look across the history of any team that you want to name that have been in football for a period of time, they will have seen these moments at some stage. So it's a new challenge for us. It's a new mindset. There's some new emotions. The position in the league, the run of form, some of the difficulties with injuries. All of those things come into the way that a team has to navigate a season normally. For us, it hasn't been the case. We've always been in a good position. We might have had the odd couple of games that have not gone for us, but we've always maintained a good position in the Eastern Conference, or Western Conference to that point. We've got some new challenges. We have to overcome some new difficulties. And I think the group's going to find out an awful lot about themselves over the next 2 or 3 months. I don't believe, and nor do any of the guys in the group, that we're by any way, shape or form out of the hunt for a playoff position. A couple of results get you right back in to the mix again. And that's, of course, our challenge over the next 2 games.
Jacob?
Gary, you got to see Toronto here in the preseason, and not only that, but now, over the first 12 games of the season, they have 19 points, whereas last year they had 22 points the entire season. I guess what are the biggest differences you've seen from them? Maybe not only in that preseason game against the City, but also for the start of the season.
Well, yeah, it was slightly different in pre-season. I think John's done a very good job with them. There's a lot of changes there. The biggest thing that John will have been after is to get his fingerprints and his footprint all over that team as quickly as possible. And that was very, very noticeable in pre-season. Their results up until the weekend have been really decent. Been on a nice run. I think they strung 3 victories together, off the back. So they're in a very competitive spot. But he'll know full well reinforcing that week in, week out is a key. 1 or 2 individuals in that group that, of course, very influential. And I know one of them will be missing on Wednesday, I do believe, in Bernadeschi. But look, they're a strong group. He's done a very good job. For us, it's really all about reinforcing what we saw against Montreal, some of the discipline and the more, I think, structured work that we saw at the weekend and trying to get that balance right again.
Tony? Just word on Sam Surridge. He got a hat-trick last home game. Just looking at the bigger picture of how he has adapted. Players who come in with big transfer fees on their shoulders and come over to this league. It's not always a bed of roses for them. He's had injury issues and all sorts. How would you kind of assess where he is right now, the progress you've seen since he arrived here?
I think he's made some nice strides, Tony. I really do. Last weekend was probably, we could say, the pinnacle of what we've seen. But I think as you look over a period of time now, what you can see, a lot of Sam's qualities, I think, are very effective in MLS. He's an athletic lad. He's an intelligent lad. He certainly has all of the right tools in front of goal. He's fitted into the group perfectly well. He's a really good personality and very, very genuine. Very hard-working boy, day in, day out. I think the one thing that he, and I think all of us, would maybe like to see now is a consistent run of not just games and form, but goals. Whether that's scoring, whether that's creating, being in and around the action on a regular basis. If we look back at some of the games prior to Montreal, I mean, there were opportunities and there were moments where I think he would rightly say, could have and should have got myself on the sheet. But the good thing is he's getting in those positions, and at this point in his career with us, I think we're all very, very pleased where he's at.
Ross?
Jacob Shaffelburg will come up against his former club. He was a part player.
If he plays.
If he plays, sorry. He was a part player for Toronto, but obviously he has a bigger role here. His importance, whether it's towards Wednesday, his importance as a whole for you guys.
You know what? I thought we missed him massively at the weekend. There were some reasons for that, as maybe you could all fully understand, with 2 very important home games and 3 games in a week, and the role that Jacob plays in the group. He's shifted gears into a different position. The way that he plays is always a very, very high intensity. The workload that he's offering the group has been immense. And as we work towards Wednesday and Saturday's game, I think you can fully expect him to be part of that group. I think he's done a fabulous job of adapting to a slightly different role within the team. We had I think I may have mentioned it somewhere, we had a bit of a chat towards the end of last week about his defensive duties and what he was achieving and how he's really appreciated the other side of the ball for the group. Jacob's always been a very bright and positive aspect to our play, and he's at his very best in the attacking third of the field, of course. But I think he's shown some other qualities, certainly in the last 2 or 3 games that he's played. In the Montreal game, he made it clear that he saw it as a real challenge to himself, as a one-on-one with Ruan. Both very, very athletic individuals, both very positive. He realised he needed to do a particular job on Ruan when we didn't have the ball, and I thought he went about his business ever so well, but still was able to find some very influential moments on the ball. So I've been really pleased with Jacob, and he's maturing very, very nicely in the group.
We'll go to Ben Wright on Zoom.
Yeah, Gary, we've obviously seen you set up in a back 3 or a back 5, however you want to kind of qualify it, for pretty extended stretches before. So I'm curious about kind of the shift to it this time. I know you don't want to give any kind of lineup info away, but was the shift initially kind of a maybe a reaction to guys like Walker and Shaq being out, or is it kind of more maybe your long-term vision for the team right now? And if so, maybe what are some of the strengths that you see specifically kind of fitting with the group right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it multiple times, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Ben. We were missing two internationals in that back line. Certainly two of the guys out of our best back four. And it was obvious that we were just conceding too many goals, and there were some guys in the group that looked unsettled. The shift was to try and maybe put a plug in that to give us a better platform. In doing so, there were some guys in the group that, we've just spoken about Jacob. How were we going to get, certainly was I going to get some individuals in the group to be as effective in particular roles? And I think we've found a good platform here, a good template. It's given us a bit more stability. It's given us an opportunity to manage the game with the ball. Someone like Annabelle has been hugely influential on the ball. This system has really, really helped the way that he goes about his business. I don't think with the guys that we've had out that we've lost anything within this shape. In fact, I think we've seen some real positives. We've always been a goal threat. We've posed a different question to some teams, and in some cases we've been able to match up very, very, very well with others. So at this point in time, I don't see any reason to move away from that. The guys coming into the group, as you saw at the weekend with someone like Amar, fits in very, very nicely. I think we're moving forward, as I've just said, in a reasonable way. The balance is starting to show through in the group again. And right now, I don't see any reason to change that. Long term, who knows? We'll get Shaq back in the group at some point. We'll get Tyler up to scratch, in terms of minutes and sharpness. And likewise, Walker. Those guys are still working their way to what I would class as full health and 90-minute football. We're not quite there yet.
We'll go back to Blair for our last question.
Gary, I know the two groups, you and Huntsville, are kind of intertwined. There's a lot of overlap. I'm just curious if they're struggling in their league at the moment a good bit. So I'm just curious if there's any sort of, do you give it any time? Are you involved in that, or is it kind of out of sight, out of mind for
You're trying to pin that on me as well.
That's why I'm asking.
Is that what you're trying to do? No, of course. There's a lot of connection. Christoph, of course, has just taken over that group. I think you're finding down there's a lot of young players in that group, and some good young players. Just coming through that academy system. They've also had a ton of injuries as well. So there's a lot of moving parts down there. I think if you look a little bit deeper and a little bit closer into that group, that's a conveyor belt. And the big hope is that we're seeing one or two players come through that group. It may not be in the near future. It might be 2 or 3 years down the line. But I think that environment was always set up, as a lot of other groups have shown, with development in mind, that transition from academy to what would be a reserve league and far more competitive. And at the moment, one or two of those guys are finding life at the next level a little bit more difficult, and in fact have probably been thrust into that environment a little bit too soon. So I think they're doing a very, very good job down there. And if you look at one or two of the last results that they've had, it's been last minute goals, it's been last 10-minute goals. Some of those younger lads are finding it difficult to stay the distance. I think Christoph has settled in nicely, as have one or two of the other staff. And as they start to get some players back into that group, the likes of Forster is now fit and available. I think he'll get his first minutes again in the reserves this weekend. Joey Skinner's not a million miles away. Woobens, who you've not seen yet, has come through a long injury process, recovery process with the first team group, and he'll be down there, I think, in the next week or two. So as they get one or two bodies back, I'm sure you'll start to see those results turn. Honestly, I'm not sure the results are the most important thing down there. Yes, confidence with those young players is important. I would say that having one or two more experienced players back in the group will help develop those younger players.
I think the first few times I played against Toronto was more of I kind of got in my head about it. But now it's starting to get to be just another game in the season. It's always good to see all those guys, the coach as well from national team. But yeah, I mean, it's always good to see them. Forever be thankful for Toronto and everything they've done for me. And then 2 games in a week is always difficult, but we just got to stay positive, stay healthy, and just be ready to get after each game.
We'll go down the line again. Claudio?
Jacob, of course you have to, like a professional player, you have to try your best every single game, no matter what he's playing. But is it very different to play here in Jolies in terms of field conditions that what you face in Charlotte?
For me personally, yeah, I'm not much of a turf guy. And also the grass at Geodis is unbelievable, so shout out to the grounds crew that work hard to keep our field perfect. But yeah, I'll always prefer to play on grass. So, and the fans at home help a lot too, so yeah, I'll pick Geodis every day.
Well, how do you like playing wingback as opposed to just pure winger?
I guess so. Last year I didn't love defending. Well, to be honest, my whole life I've never really liked defending. But I think this year, starting to play wing back and kind of maturing a bit more and understanding the role, I think I've come to the understanding of like kind of liking defending, kind of having that passion for it, seeing who I'm going against and see if I can do better than them, defend them. But yeah, it's a weird feeling for me because I've always hated defending. So to kind of have that not love for it yet, but passion for defending, I guess, and it's cool. I like it. I've really liked the position so far.
Yeah, I guess going back to Claudio's point, I guess you this season at home you've scored in all but one game as a team. You've scored 18 goals in 9 games, and then also play all three of your wins have both of your wins have been at home. I guess what do you feel have been just the biggest differences in attack just at Geodis versus on the road?
There's like a lot of things, I guess. You could add a lot in there, travel, but everyone else does that. Different fields. We're just all used to Geodis. We're close to our families here. Feel good here. I don't know. I mean, it's a much better feeling waking up in your own bed, going to Geodis, playing at Geodis in front of your home fans. So that's probably the biggest thing. Although we do got to get better at playing away, but yeah, home is just it's so much better, I guess.
Tony?
Jacob, John Herman selected you for your country, the greatest honour probably a professional can have. What was he like to play under? And do you have any memories of particular conversations with him and what he said to you when you into the group, and just what kind of a coach was he, and has he been for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be thankful for him for my whole life. He brought me in. He's an unbelievable coach, super intense. He knows how to get players going. I'd say like just not one memory, but just in general. I remember we'd be practicing. Before practice, we have meetings, and he'd like have such a good pre-practice talk that you'd be ready to run through like a brick wall. So his like speaking before just even a practice was unbelievable. So he's a fun coach.
Ross?
Gary was just telling us about Montreal. He said he almost felt like you looked at Ruan taking him on, and you really enjoyed that matchup. Given that Toronto Bernadeschi's out, but do you, when you're going into that match and prepping, you kind of take it a little bit personal at who you come up against, and wanting to get one over on them?
Well, Montreal is Ruan, and he's like one of the fastest in the league, so that's kind of where I was coming from with that one. So it's always fun to go against someone that's known to be super fast, to kind of prove my speed, I guess. And I feel like defending speed is much different than offensive speed. I feel like my whole career I feel like so slow trying to defend, but going forward it's like the opposite. But now I've kind of trying to even it out a bit more. But then looking forward to Toronto, I don't try to look at who I go against that much because then I'll get in my head about it. I've tried to do this with Guppy before and it's never worked out well, so I just kind of use the first 5-10 minutes to kind of figure out what's going on, who I'm going against, and then go off that and use my instincts more than trying to go into the game with these 3 points that I'm going to do. But yeah, I've been loving the defending part, honestly. I'll say it. It's been fun.
We'll go to Ben Wright on Zoom.
Yeah, Jacob. I'm kind of curious what maybe just the mood in the locker room right now is. Obviously, you're still early in the season. I think 11 games played out of a 34-game season, so there's still plenty of time. How do you kind of balance that with also kind of the knowledge that points in April and May matter just as much as points towards the end of the year?
I mean, the mood's not where you'd want it to be. Obviously, we are not winning every single game. But, geez, it's a difficult question because, I mean, we want to be winning and everything. I do feel like it's right there for us. I mean, we saw it at Montreal. It was a great performance. But, I mean, these next 2 games are big for us to kind of keep going throughout the year. And I think the mood's been good, to keep going and to keep powering through this stretch. Obviously, it's tough, like I said, to keep a real positive mood. But yeah, I don't know what to say on that question. That's a hard one. I don't want to say the vibe's amazing, but I don't want to say it's awful. It's just kind of we're gonna get through this stretch and we're gonna come out better on the other side,